So Moses knew that with God's help he would be able to beat the king, but he was still a bit scared. So Moses had to stay really close to God and keep speaking to him and asking him for help. And this is what happened. So Moses went back to Egypt to see the king, and he was very brave, and God gave him the words to speak. And he said to him, "You must let my people go." Remember, all of these people were being kept as slaves back in Egypt, having to do all of the hard jobs. And the Egyptian people would keep them in line and make sure they told them what to do all of the time, make sure that they were doing as they were told. And so Moses said to the king, he said, "Let my people go." And the king said no. And so, do you know, God sent the first plague, and all of the water in Egypt turned into a river of blood. Oh, how horrible. But still the king said no to Moses. So then God sent another plague, and there was frogs all over the land. And still the king said no to Moses. So next God sent lice, so that all of the people had lice everywhere. And still the king said no. So next God sent flies. How horrible. Swarms and swarms of flies to cover all of Egypt. But still the king said no, he would not free God's people. So next, God sent disease on all of the livestock, all of the animals that were living in the land of Egypt. And the king still said no. So next, God sent a disease where all of the people got boils on their hands. And still the king said, "No, I will not free your people." So then God sent the biggest storm with hail. So much hail that it was destroying things. It was like big glass balls. And still the king said no. So next, God sent locusts to fill the land of Egypt. And still the king said no. And next, God sent darkness to cover the whole of the land. But still the king said no. Finally, the 10th time, God said that all of the baby boys that were born to the Egyptian people must not live. And finally, this made the king listen. He made the king stop and think about keeping the people as slaves. And you know, the king said yes. So just as God had promised, because God always keeps his promise, and with his power sending all of the plagues to Egypt, Moses led all of the people out of Egypt. Finally, the king had let the slaves go, and now God was going to be leading his people out of Egypt towards the land that he had promised to them. Finally, they did not need to be kept as slaves. God had kept his promise. And you know, it might have taken a very, very long time, but God kept his promise always. And we need to remember that God will always keep his promise to help us, just the same way as he helped Moses to free the people